Hi, welcome back to Coffee and One Thing. We are Team Beery, and we are caffeinated and motivated.
Ready to go.
Ready to go. What is on every home, but most homeowners don't know much about it?
Paint.
Well, that might be true, but we're thinking home insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yay.
So we have a special guest with us, Corey Nash, with Premier Insurance, and we're going to ask him some questions about what it is that we need to know about home insurance.
Looking forward to it.
All right. So are we going to do our coffee? Probably
yes, our coffee of the month, Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, caramel vanilla cream.
All right. Audrey's little favorite.
I like the ice cream on the box.
Yeah, Scott wants the ice cream.
He'll take the ice cream in the morning.
Yeah, I'll just take the ice cream.
Nice. So basically what we're trying to figure out is when you're under contract, you need to buy a house, you're under contract buying that house, when is the best time to start searching for home insurance?
Yes. So I love being part of this process because there's so many pitfalls that you can avoid or things that you can that will come to the surface through this process. So what I recommend is when I have clients that are shopping for houses, if they maybe have it narrowed down to 2 or 3, if they want to put an offer in, I highly encourage them that they call me with those addresses. I can plug everything in, and we run what's called a clue report. And that clue report can expose lots of things. Primarily, it'll expose the claims history on that house. So you can find out if there's been a roof leak, a water leak, an under slab leak, a fire, and all sorts of things like that probably would be a good idea to know before you put in an offer.
And to know that it's actually insurable.
Right, and an extension of that, then you can go to the homeowner and ask them to show you paperwork that shows that they actually hired a legit contractor to do it instead of putting it back together themselves, so you can have the peace of mind maybe knowing that there isn't mold still left in the wall and things like that.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So definitely even, yes, but maybe before you put an offer, but definitely during your inspection period.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
so you're
During the
asking
inspection.
and answering
And
all
you
of those
can
questions
get out
that are going to
if
be
you
pertinent
need
to the new
Absolutely.
homeowner. Yeah, that's really good.
Absolutely.
Is there a fee attached to running those reports? or
No
how does-
fee.
Okay.
No fee at all.
Nice.
No fee at all.
That's
Nice.
nice to know. That's
Yeah,
really nice to know.
That's a great resource for a new homeowner.
Yes.
Right? Especially,
Absolutely.
there's so many pieces to buying a home that it's nice to have someone like you in your corner. Right?
Yeah, I mean, they always
When
look
they're doing
beautiful
that.
when you tour them, but that doesn't mean that they didn't just have a water leak or something
Right.
major that just kind of got beautified and maybe not
Not
corrected.
done the way
Yeah,
it should have done.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Cool.
So, when buying a home, what other questions should they ask insurance-wise? What do you think would be good questions?
There's a handful of questions that I really wish people would ask because they don't find out until after they've put in an offer frequently. Then they call me and then I ask the questions. When was the roof last replaced? If it's an older house, does it have galvanized plumbing versus copper plumbing? Does it have aluminum wiring versus copper wiring? And all those things come into play as far as what your insurance is going to cost. So,
Interesting.
knowing how old that roof is a big deal.
Really?
Yeah, insurance companies, if the house is over 25 years old, every carrier is a little bit different, but generally speaking, it's right around 25 years old. If the roof hasn't been replaced in the last 25 years, they will not insure that roof on a replacement cost basis,
Really?
which means that they're going to depreciate the roof.
Oh.
And on a roof that's 25 or 30 years old, you're really not.
getting
There's nothing left.
Yeah.
There's no meat left on the bone in
Yeah.
the depreciation. So.
Wow.
things like
That-
that are
I didn't know that.
really big deal.
That's pretty important.
Because that could be a costly issue that
yeah.
comes up
So
for a homeowner.
so then even if you're selling your house, you should have had your roof replaced if you've owned it for 25, or if it's that old and it's never been replaced, then you should be considering replacing the roof so that it's more attractive
Yeah.
to a buyer.
Yeah, for sure. And here in Arizona, we have a lot of tile roofs. And tile roofs, a frequent roofing fix is the tile doesn't keep your roof, your
Right,
house
it's the
dry.
membrane.
It's the
Right.
underlayment
Right.
underneath it.
Yeah.
And very frequently, if there's only been one layer of underlayment on it, they'll just pull the tiles off and roll another layer over top of that. And different insurance companies have different policies on that. But for sure, no insurance company would insure a roof that has more than 2 layers to that
Okay.
too.
That's
So
So
you should
important to know,
replace the
too.
underlayment, is what you're saying.
yeah, so after 2, they really have to rip all of it off and start over
Start
again.
again.
And I find that that's usually revealed in the inspection report.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it's important to do your inspection before your 10 days is up.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
at all
have
possible.
Yeah.
and a roofer come out and take a look.
Right.
And I have a long history in the building business, home building business before I got into insurance. So I'm really proficient at reading those reports. So I always encourage them, if you get that, send it to me and we can sort through the stuff that's
Concerning and
concerning and not concerning as an insurance standpoint
Right.
Yeah.
versus
That's a great-
how you guys manage that as
Yeah,
far as the
yeah.
purchasing standpoint. But
Right.
it just kind of gives one more angle of making sure that
That's
you have
super,
something solid.
Very cool.
that's awesome. Awesome.
It
Yeah.
helps to have lots of eyes.
It does
Yeah, it
help.
does.
Yeah. Yeah. And people in your court for sure.
Yes.
So let's talk about rider policies. There's a bunch of different things that people have in their home, and they just think, well, I have home insurance, everything's covered. Walk us through if that is a true statement or not.
I'm glad you asked about that because a lot of people take the approach. It's sort of the a la carte stuff at the end after we go through all the meat and potatoes of the policy, and it can easily come off as like add-ons on things. Not every rider is necessary for everybody, but everyone has kind of their own needs. If you don't have a lot of jewelry or firearms or furs or great grandma's china, you might not need that. But if you have that, it's probably a really good idea to properly insure that. And then on top of that, there's been some really good options that have come out recently. They have equipment breakdown coverage, which
Okay.
if you understand how that's written, how the language is, it's really beneficial. Some people think that if they just have their TV blows out, that they get a new TV. And a lot of agents don't necessarily explain how that coverage works, but it can come in tremendously beneficial. Like if you had a power surge and the electronic has to die the right way, but if you have a power surge
And
and
have the appropriate death.
right. But if you had a power surge and it fried your air conditioning unit, you
Wow.
could potentially get a new air conditioning unit out of that deal. And it's
okay.
like roughly $3 a month.
Wow.
And another
It's a
one-
huge
That's really,
difference. yeah.
and you forget that those things have computer components,
Oh, absolutely.
right? If you're not in that industry, like your
Yeah.
air conditioning system has a motherboard,
right.
right? It
Yeah.
has an electronic
Yeah.
component
Well,
to
it
it,
does now, for sure.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah. And so the other half of that too is having good people on your team. So I know the air conditioning person that Elaine works with, and the devil's in the detail in this as well, where that documentation needs to be done properly and very well explain how the machine died, so the insurance company will pay the claim as opposed to not pay the claim. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's
Someone who knows
Somebody
what
just
they're
says,
doing.
no, it's dead
Yeah,
and it needs a
having-
replacement.
yeah.
Well, then you're not going to get the claim correct.
having people that understand what the insurance company
I
is
see.
expecting to
I
pay
see.
the claim. Another really big one that's come out lately. I live in Mesa, and I get letters from almost every water bill. It says, for what? It's like $300 a year, I think, to protect the
sewer pipes.
Right. So the city's responsible up to the meter, and then your home insurance kicks in if you had a leak from inside the house.
Inside the slab,
like
right?
From the main water into the house, that's covered. But that line from the street to the house has never really fallen under either one of those categories.
Right.
And so the city or wherever your water and sewer supplier has found a really good opportunity there where they try to sell you that, but it's to the tune of like $200 to $500 a year, where you can add that. Most home insurance carriers now have that as an endorsement on your homeowner's policy for roughly like $2 to $3 a month.
Wow.
So it makes a big,
That's
big
a huge difference. Yeah.
And it's important because that pipe is like, that could cost you $2,000 to $4,000.
Oh yeah, it could be an expensive
I just
repair.
had somebody charge $22,000 to rip up basically their front yard and then replace that pipe.
Wow.
So.
And another misconception people have is they go, well, my house is only 10 years old, so that pipe's not bad. Well, the truth is 30 years ago, the pipe that they put in was built out of far better materials than the pipes that they use now.
Right.
They crushed, the pipes now crush way easier, so.
I mean, they look like a hamburger.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not round anymore.
They're oval.
Exactly. So just because your house is only 5-10 years old, that still should be a concern of yours.
Just to be protected.
Yeah.
So we've learned that
Peace of mind.
we need to do autopsies on our equipment when it blows up. How did it die?
You have to call the right
TV
corner.
Yeah.
Right corner.
Yeah. That's interesting. How it died is
We're going to put that in a Patricia Cornwall.
How did it
There you
die?
go. How did it die? So any other riders that are kind of important to think about, like maybe electronics or cyber security or any of that kind of stuff? Is there stuff?
Yeah, cybersecurity. That's another new one that obviously we didn't have to think about until, I don't know, last 10 years or so. And then there's another one now. It's called ordinance law. And that's a big one because building codes change.
Yes.
So
quite a bit.
I had a client who had a house built in the 70s, and she had a small kitchen fire, and it burnt the back wall behind the kitchen, and it got into some of the electrical. The problem is when you build that back, you have to build it back to current code.
Yep.
And not just patch it back together. Well, current code says that the whole house needs to be rewired. Had they not had that endorsement, they wouldn't have gotten their whole house rewired, covered under their insurance policy.
Oh my stars.
And another great one now is there's a rider that covers you for personal, with social media and things. Some people can get out of control, out of hand, and they'll make comments that fall under the category of libel or slander. And there's
Really?
and you can get sued for that. You can literally get sued for slamming
but there's
somebody's
an
business.
insurance
That will
writer for that?
That they will defend you illegally if you get sued for libel or slander for saying
That is so
something.
interesting.
Just don't say anything.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy.
We all
but-
know how difficult that is when you get on the internet and you get
That is
involved.
really interesting.
Yeah, lots of great
Wow.
stuff. It's constantly insurance always seems to the policies always seem to lag maybe a couple years behind the trends, but they get with it. It was similar to when Uber and Lyft came out. Insurance companies had no idea how to cover that
insure that.
risk. And now it's just a simple little endorsement on a normal auto policy. So they come around. They do pretty good
Well,
at
I
keeping
know
up with what we
also
got.
as a realtor, right? If you have clients riding in your car, like you have to add an endorsement onto your auto policy, right? I mean, so things you don't typically think about as the average consumer.
Yeah. And that's a big problem. The insurance industry has gotten so So on a commercial break, 3 out of 5 commercials are insurance commercials.
Right.
Right.
And every one of
Save
them is
15.
telling you how much you can save.
Yeah.
Not one of them says, let's make sure you're properly covered. Or if they do, it's the little blurb at,
At
somewhere
the very end.
buried in there.
Make-
Yeah. I mean, I'm a consumer of insurance also. I understand that price is important, but understanding what you need and what a good fit for you goes a long way.
Well, and not until, not very long ago, had I ever heard of being covered for underinsured.
Oh, yeah. That's a
I
good
never
one.
even heard of that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah.
I just ran into that last week. I had a young girl, I think she's 19, getting her first auto insurance policy, and she called somewhere and just said, I need cheap insurance, because I hear that
Right.
every day. I want to get cheaper insurance.
Right.
So they got her cheap insurance, but they basically stripped the policy down where she had no uninsured, she had no underinsured, she had no roadside service, she had nothing. They were the best price,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
But there's a cost
And she
involved.
didn't know to
Right.
ask about. She doesn't know what uninsured
Oh, yeah.
and underinsured is. So
Yeah, until somebody
Explains
shares the
and says,
knowledge
yeah.
with you, you don't.
And you
don't
go,
know.
of course I want that because,
same week, I got a call from a client who rear-ended somebody, or they got rear-ended by somebody, and then it slammed them into another car.
Oh.
Both drivers, the one that hit her and the one she hit, they both fled the scene. Probably because they didn't have insurance.
Wow.
But in Arizona, uninsured and underinsured is a really, really, really important coverage.
Wow.
And so, as an insurance agent, do you help people maybe they're not just buying a house, but they've got cars and all of this stuff? Do you help bundle all of that together for them?
Absolutely. There's really very few scenarios where bundling is not the most efficient way of doing it. Really, the only way is if someone had 4 or 5 at-fault accidents on their car insurance, so we maybe
Okay.
need to put them with a company that targets higher risk auto policies and leave their house
With someone else.
with someone else that,
Okay.
that has a better deal. But 9 times out of 10, keeping it with one
Getting it all
company.
together.
Yeah,
And, like,
yeah. The more
life
vehicles you add on,
Yeah.
everything constantly brings the price.
Well, and tell us a little bit about your company, your philosophy, so we can have a little bit about you.
Mm-hmm. All about me.
Yeah,
So
let's make it all about
So
you.
I got in the insurance business 2009. I was in the home building business for 15 years in the
Wow.
company I worked for. In the 2007, 2008
You were busy.
building issue, when the market kind of tanked,
Yeah.
they just shut down their doors. So that's all I knew. I knew that I liked working with people. I knew that I liked constant variety. I can't just do the same thing every day. And I know that I love problem solving. So I kind of stumbled into the insurance thing. I worked for a captive company. So there's 2 different types of agents. There's captive and independent. Captive would be an agent like American Family, Farmers, State Farm. They represent only their one
Okay.
brand. And I did that for 3-4 years, and I found that I was losing great clients that didn't want to leave me, but I only had one product to offer, one company
Okay.
to offer. So I took a huge leap of faith and became an independent broker. So now I don't work for any insurance company. I work for myself, and I'm appointed with those companies, multiple companies. And another way that really benefits my insured is when you come to the table with a claim, I'm on your side of the table, not on the side of the table with the insurance company. I have no reason to defend them whatsoever. I'm here to defend you and help you get
And I can,
as much out
I
of
can
it
vouch
as
for
you
that
can.
because he has done that
Yeah.
for some of my clients. So, yeah.
And there's leverage
Yeah.
in that. The more business
That
that
makes
you
sense.
place with an insurance company, the more they want you to keep selling their products. So
Right.
if there's an issue, I can call them up and remind them how loyal I've been to them and why it's probably a good idea that they don't go try to save $500 or $700
Right.
on a claim, and that maybe they need to think big picture, and it usually works out far better. When I was with my captive company, my parents of all people had a claim on their house, and the adjuster told me that I needed to stick to sales and that he would stick to paying out claims, and that was kind of my
Nice.
tipping
The writing
point
on
of
the wall.
leaving.
You're like, okay, no more.
Yeah, when the agent can't share their opinion and try to go to bat for their client, and they're told to just stick to
Just
sales,
sell it.
Right.
that
Just
really
sell it.
let me see what the difference was between captive and independent, for sure.
That would be frustrating.
So how many companies do you work with or for or?
So I have roughly, I think, 14 or 15
Oh, wow.
home and auto companies. The thing with insurance is, so I have a pretty good idea when someone calls me and I get a feel for what they have going on. If they're just a 23-year-old single student that lives in an apartment, I have a pretty good idea of what 2 or 3 companies are going to be competitive on. The insurance companies refer to it as their appetite. And
Okay.
their appetites
Like
change.
their ideal client.
Right. The company that has good rates for youthful drivers doesn't necessarily have good rates for a family of 6 that owns a home, versus
Yeah.
the 23-year-old that
Right,
lives in an
right,
apartment. They have different target markets that they target, and sometimes it'll surprise me because their appetites are constantly evolving.
Right.
So that's why
That's
it's
really
important to shop
interesting.
your insurance, and which is what I like, because they can call me and say, "Hey, I've been noticing my rates are getting a little out of line," and I have all their information in one program. I just go in and hit refresh, and it populates, it requotes all those companies all over again,
Right.
because companies will pivot their business
As
strategies.
to what they're
Yeah.
wanting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Well, and that
goes
initial
into
rate-
like annually. You should probably shop it, and just get
Yeah.
a feel for.
Yeah, at least every 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
It's
At
kind of
least
like
keep
your
'em
cable
honest.
bill, right? They give you the promotional to get you in the
Right.
door.
There
It
is
drives me crazy.
There is that too. There is that
Switch.
too. It's a new,
Yeah.
it's a new customer, new policy holder discount,
Yeah.
and it. Some of them drop it off after the first year, so a lot of them will do like a 3% get you in the door
Okay.
discount, and some of them will dump that after the first year. Some of them will drop 5%, 1%
Yeah,
every year
drop it down a little bit more.
for a few years, so it's
Okay.
a gradual increase.
You don't
so.
notice it.
hmm There's nothing wrong
Like
with
the
that as
frog
long
in
as
the
you know
boiling
that that's
No,
the game you're
yeah,
playing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So,
So cool.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on with insurance. We could probably
Yeah.
be talking about this for much more and more time.
I could talk to you about it way longer than you're going to be willing to hear. So
He's got stories.
Yeah,
it's not
for
that
sure.
exciting.
For sure. So thank you so very much. Do you have any
Absolutely.
other tips and tricks that we need to know about before you take off?
No, I think the biggest key is it would be similar. I guess I feel the same way. People can go online and find someone to help purchase a house that they never ever meet before, but they don't get these little things. It's important to have someone that
Oh, yeah.
that you
Right.
know and trust, and that understands how the game is played. And I feel like insurance and real estate probably have a very similar parallel in
right,
that,
yeah,
where
for sure.
you could go online and do it, but the
Relationships.
perils are a lot greater when
Yeah.
you do that.
It's really nice when you have relationships, I think.
yep.
Yeah,
And know that somebody's in your court.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's our goal.
Yeah.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
sure.
That's one of the reasons we're
Absolutely.
doing this, right?
Right.
Yeah.
To help
Right.
I think it's great. 'cause-
foster new relationships.
Yeah, what a great resource to have for not just
Absolutely.
your current clients but potential clients. Yeah.
Right. For sure. For sure.
Awesome.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time and working through all this with us. We appreciate all your expertise. If you have any questions, always reach out to us. You can also go to teambeery.com, where
right.
we've got a lot of resources there. We are going to have a page put together to give you ideas of what to look for ordering your insurance and things that you might need to know. So always... and we need to like, subscribe,
Please.
and share. So make sure that you get that out to the world. If you know somebody who's buying a house, somebody who needs insurance, these would be great. So make sure you share it to those types of folks.
Absolutely.
And always use a very good team.
Good team.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.